Hello out there, Foxes fans, and welcome back to another edition of the U.S. Foxes podcast. Coming to you guys live, as always, from various parts all over the United States. As always, I'm your host, Matt Folks, in San Diego, California, joined by my three amazingly handsome co-hosts in various parts of the country. We got Mr. Chris Warner up in Del Mar, San Diego. What's up, my man?
How you doing, Matt? How you doing, boys? Nice to see you again. Apologies for last week. Kudos to you managing to go an hour and 10 minutes about another loss. But it's nice. It's great to be back and to talk about a weekend, mate, where we didn't lose. I mean,
Didn't
it's got
lose.
to that point in the season. We didn't lose. We can talk positive. I can be optimistic. Dude, I can't wait.
We tried our best to put out your
Yeah, kudos to Jim, especially.
vibes.
Jim delivered on the optimism. Fair play to you, mate.
Mr. Jim Harris, the Texas Foxes down in Houston. What's up, bro?
I'm doing well. Being called an optimist was surprised me, so I'm kind of somewhat speechless right now. But great to see you all, and excited to talk about to talk about a result where we didn't lose. So if we talk for an hour and 10 minutes when we lose, good luck, everybody. Hope you got no plans tomorrow.
It's been a while since we've had a point to talk about, Jason. Mr. Jason Becker of the New York Foxes. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. I don't know how pumped up I am just about a point, but I will say seeing Chris this week has really lifted my spirits. And man, if you listened last week, Chris, you can tell I was missing you. I needed you, man. I was down. And so I'm already feeling like $1 million.
Your positivity just radiates through us, Chris. You're a beacon for the three of us.
Yeah, I remember. Firstly, before we start, I have to say a couple of things from a podcast 2 weeks ago. I had one of our great friends, Eddie, that we've met from LA. He reached out to me after that podcast, and he was like, "Dude, are you okay? I listened to that hour, and you were just so sad." And I was like, "Yes, mate. Leicester will do that to me when we're fighting in the relegation zone." But shout out to Eddie for reaching out in that 2 weeks and checking in on me. But I can say optimistic Chris is back. We're not getting relegated. We'll have a decent season. We'll finish above Forest, and we'll look forward to the new year.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, shout out to Eddie. What a legend. He's just an LA Fox up there that makes it out to every event. He's just a great guy. Jumped out of a plane a couple weeks ago too. So shout out to that guy. We love you, Eddie.
Eddie the Eagle jumping out of planes.
Eddie the Eagle, yes, correct. Oh man. Well, yeah, guys, let's like we said, so happy you're back, Chris, and thank you for running stuff from behind the scenes last week and making the show actually work. But we are glad to have your voice joining us this week when we will be talking about, yeah, like we said, guys, not a loss. 1-1 draw in London against Brentford, kind of a match that was all over the place and started off right away with. We knew it was going to be different with a big thing that we've been waiting and questioning when it might happen. When was it going to happen? Mr. Daniel Everson gets the start ahead of Danny Ward, the much maligned Danny Ward. Brendan was quoted as saying Danny knows that he's disappointed, obviously, but he said something that Iverson's gotten more work, or I don't know. He definitely was trying to be nice about it, but said Danny's at a spot where he doesn't want to be and he's not happy with his performance. So, I guess, Jim, we'll start with you. Your thoughts when we saw the new Dane in net for the Foxes?
I think we'd seen it coming, and I was pretty excited, actually. Definitely looking forward to seeing him playing another few games and getting a run. So that's good to hear that Rodgers is actually committed to that and publicly sort of talked about it on Thursday, talked that he was coming in, and then talked about it post-game. I think it sounds like Danny Ward is also kind of supportive of it too. And I think he showed that he gave us a lot more sort of presence. He didn't have loads to do, but when he called upon, especially from a lot of the crosses that were coming in, and he grew into the game in the second half, I think, a lot more as well.
it looked like he was. I also enjoyed the dynamic of their all Danish midfield, because you could see a few times I saw Everson yelling shit at them, and I was like, he's got to be talking shit to those guys. That's got to be pretty cool. Jason, your thoughts when you saw number 31 getting the call up? I mean, it's a great thing. We've known the guy has got skill forever. I mean, he was the top keeper in the championship last season. So we know the dude's got skill. Your thoughts when you saw him in there?
Yeah, I think like many Leicester fans, I've been waiting for Everson for a while now. He just, like, you can tell he's a big boy. He's a good shot stopper. If you just look at the last 3-4 years, before this season, he's played a ton more games than Ward. I mean, he has played regular first team senior football for a few years now, and Danny Ward hasn't. I think Ward was a good number 2 for us. Had a few good cup games backing up for Schmeichel and kind of filling in when needed. But I think it's been pretty clear that we need a change back there, especially when we're not very sure of what our back line is going to look like from week to week. And so I was happy to see the move, but I think this is a sign of the pressure that's on Rodgers, and now, like, we've left it so late in the season that it's time to start rolling the dice a bit and trying to really shake things up and see whatever we can do to get a couple of results. I mean, when Schmeichel was still with the club, Rodgers couldn't stop talking about Danny Ward and describing him as a second number 1 instead of the number 2 keeper. And now he's, pretty much completely, I don't know if that was a way to just keep Ward motivated, but he's really completely changed his tune now and called him he's been a very loyal number 2 for a while. So I can see that it seems like the pressure's on, but kudos to Everson. He didn't really seem to let that get to him. He knows how to play in high pressure situations, and he didn't have a ton to do, but sometimes that's also a keeper deserves a bit of credit for that as well. Like when they don't have much to do, it shows that he's doing his part to keep that back line organized. And he had a lot of work to do, considering he has got a center back pairing that does not have much time together.
It did seem like he just stepped right in, and there was no moments where I was like, shit, they're all lost back there. It looked like the guy was comfortable, and say what you will about Danny and all that went on, he's done some amazing things for us when we talk about FA Cup runs and saves and penalty saves and things he's done. But part of me has got to think, Chris, that Danny is just kind of obviously disappointed, but it's got to be a sigh of relief when he's just like, fucking finally I get the world off of my back. It's been pretty rough on the guy.
I don't think any of us in this can kind of put ourselves in his position. I mean, because his first thoughts are going to be disappointment, but maybe it gives him an opportunity to step back, be solid in training, and then look forward, because come the summer there's going to be a whole new competition for who's going to be behind the net. Obviously, it's going to be a position that I think we're going to look to strengthen in the summer as well. There were some goalkeepers. The Brentford one, for example, he's out of contract end of the summer. He's the sort of guy that I think would be interested in. We can throw some money at him. I thought Everson was solid, as the boy said. I think one of the things that Rodgers kind of talked about was Everson with his distribution, but I thought that was solid. He knew when to get it out. He always looked for, Jim shaking his head there, but I thought that he didn't do anything that put us deep in the mire, and he didn't do anything that kind of wasn't to be expected in that situation. So overall, I think solid performance, mate. And I think time will tell whether this was the right decision. I think time will tell whether this was a decision that had to be made. It seems like, to Jason's point, this is kind of a roll of the dice at the very end. And hopefully Rodgers has got this one bang on, because otherwise it might be just a little bit too late.
Well, Jim, did you want to say more on that?
I did. Sorry. I think Rodgers, Jason made a great point about sort of minutes played between the two of them. And Rodgers actually called that out as well and said, if you look at Everson's career, he's played more minutes as a starting goalkeeper than Danny Ward has. And I think that tells the tale. He also kind of said, that I didn't quite feel as comfortable with it because we, for those of you that maybe saw the Athletic article, Danny Ward's the 17th ranked goalkeeper in the Premier League. And he said something about, he had a run of 26 games but I wanted to give him a good run. And I kind of felt like saying, well, not on my dime, mate, practice that stuff in your own time. A lot of us can see that it clearly wasn't working and that the confidence eroding. So, there are some goalkeepers that are number twos, and it's evident that I think he is a number two. Even we saw for Wales, that he did start World Cup games, but we've seen in the past that Hennessy has jumped up above him as well, and Hennessy's quite deep into his career. So that's kind of my Danny Ward thing. On the comment about Everson, I did think he was quite ropey at the start. He kicked it into touch a few times, or he was very tentative. He did get a little bit better, but I think, Chris, you're spot on. I put in my notes, if Raya is available, we need a goalkeeper like that. If we're going to continue, if we stay up and Rodgers stays, we need a goalkeeper who is as good with his feet as he is, with his hands and commanding the box. And I know that's a rare thing, but someone like Araya or Sanchez for Brighton as well have shown that difference. It's interesting when you look at actually one of the worst goalkeepers in the league from saves perspective is Edison, but look what he brings to Man City overall. And if we're going to be this Man City light, we need to have basically a goalkeeper who can play as a third centre back and step in and distribute the ball out and have a variety of passes. And I don't think the two keepers that we have on the books are starting to fill that up. And yeah, it's probably something. Let's get through this season and then we can figure out who the goalkeeper might be.
Yeah, and it might have been a bit arrogant too for us to just. It would have been too easy, right? To replace a keeper that we've had for as long as Casper was there. I mean, since he came from Leeds, basically, and then to just be like, well, the first one we pop in there is going to be fine. That would have been a bit too easy for us, I do believe. So very excited to see what the young man can do. He looks confident. He looks poised, I think is the word that I kept seeing, to myself, was he just looks like the role. And when you listen to where he was on loan last season, they do nothing but sing his praises. So I'm excited for that. Everson, obviously not the only start we see, and not really the only sign of Brendan wanting to switch things up. We do see us go back to 4 at the back with no 2 up top this time. Change in formation as we get to see Harvey and Tete back on the wings. We'll go to you now, Chris. When you see the formation change, you think, because last week it was very obvious. I think, Jason, you were the one that said it was just like Tete and Harvey, they weren't getting shit done, so we needed to go to this too. We see a switch back this week, Chris. Your thoughts on the formation switch?
I think he got it right. I think he set up the game quite well. I think if you look at, to me, kind of the two words that come to my head after watching that performance, I thought we were a little bit more organized. I think we had a little bit more balance in the center of the park, especially. I thought there were times in the Chelsea game where it seemed like we were all just bunched together. And it's so daft, but if you look at the heat map for that game and the average player position, it felt like something like an under 11s game where everybody was just condensed into the central position. So I thought we were a little bit more balanced. I thought we had to make the changes, obviously, because of the fact that Faust was out because of the red card. But I thought overall he made the right decisions. It was interesting that Docker started. I thought he was, and we might go on to this. I personally thought he didn't play very well. I think he dropped too deep. I think he kept looking for the ball. He was getting in Maddison's way at times, when I think his strength is going to be to play behind. But you can't do that if you're consistently dropping backwards. And I think that's something to do with both confidence and maybe just the fact that he feels like he's got to try and make an impression to stay in this side, because we haven't given him a long enough run recently to do that. So, but overall, Matt, I thought it was okay. The lineup was. I thought Ndidi was okay. I thought KDH had one of his better games recently. He was busy. He was doing things. He was breaking up the play. He was pushing forward. But yeah, overall, I think it was one of the better performances I've seen recently. And it was just a shame, as we'll talk into, that I think we just couldn't capitalize on that possession and momentum that we had for that 20-minute period. And I think that's kind of one of those antithesis of the season has been not that ability to take advantage of those situations. And I felt that was one of those things that we saw on Saturday.
It was kind of a contrast too, because we've spoken about this before, and Thomas Frank and by the way, I've decided Thomas Frank is like, when you watch a rom-com, he is like the bad boyfriend for, like, the guy that is the friend that becomes the boyfriend. Thomas Frank just looks like the bad boyfriend that's like cheating on her, and he's not supportive. He just, the long hair and stuff, he just is like a Hugh Grant kind of character. And I don't know. He's not my favorite.
Oh, Matt,
guy.
you've just caused blasphemy around the UK. Saying Hugh Grant is the bad
He's always the sweet one, right? He's the hopeless romantic.
Am I wrong? What's that? What's the Christmas movie? My wife loves it.
Love Actually.
Love Actually. Isn't he not the bad guy in that, or is he the good guy?
No, he's the prime minister, and he's like an absolute.
Oh, that's right. All right. Well, then he's the bad ignoring boyfriend. That's what my apologies for to Hugh and starting the UK war.
Cut this bit.
Yeah, cut this bit. Cut this bit. But anyway, what I noticed is they did exactly what we called for Leicester to get back to doing. Play straightforward football, stop us if you can. And it just looked to me like they were doing the things over and over again. And their first goal was a perfect. It was just shoot the fucking ball. They're just shooting it. It gets on their foot and they're shooting it, and it gets a deflection and bounces in. So I would have liked to see a lot more of that football, that straightforward stuff that they do, Jim. Kind of your thoughts, I guess, when we started out and you saw the lineup and what you thought the day was going to go.
Oh, well, I think like lineup wise, I think the boys covered it. And yeah, I think it was probably the right call to go back to a back four, we know their full backs attack. And I think that was part of the tactic from Rodgers to, have our wingers pin them back. It didn't quite work in the first half as much. B, I think like Ndidi back, and I think he had a very good game. He was defensively back to where we not quite at his peak, but he was cleaning up a lot. He was pressing a lot more as well, stepping in a couple of times. We know what we get with Ndidi. There's an easy pass that he could make. It's progressive and he doesn't do it, but I think he did his job, and I think that freed us up to go back to a sort of 4-3-3 type formation, or maybe more sort of similar to the 4-1-4-1 that we've seen before. I think it was quite fluid in that midfield. But Matt, to your point, I think it was the exact same start as the Southampton game. Straight off the kickoff, we give a corner away in the Southampton game. Harry Suter comes through the back of I can't remember who it was, but it gives a free kick at the edge of the box. We have this again, this absolutely awful, defending of the free kick. Wilf tries to clear it and just kicks it off for a needless corner. Actually, I was a bit like, oh God, oh boy, again, is like my initial thought. And they're sort of pressuring us, Matt, as you said, basics football. A long throw in that just kind of causes some disruption in the box. And they clearly are sort of targeting, pressing us early, getting in our faces. And we know that Brentford are going to do that. That's what they've made their 8th position on in the table. Hardworking, highly organized, highly aggressive in the press and defensively. And then, playing some sort of nice football through with some pace on the wings with Mbuemo and, certainly Rico Henry, who I think was on our radar at some point when he was at Walsall too, coming through. So I think, though, we kind of held on. We got a bombardment for the first bit, and I think it wasn't until the first 10 minutes that we even did anything, and it was just a kind of through ball to Madders, from Madders to Daka, and he sort of treads on the ball, and then it sort of breaks down a bit. And I think that Chris's point, the lad's on low on confidence, but I think he was there for a reason, which was defend from the front, work hard, link the play, maybe hit them on a break a bit more. But I think the thing with Daka is he works so hard for the team, and he was like helping Tete out defending. He was helping out Madison as they played a 4-4-2 defensively. And he's shown a bit of class, but he's not good enough in his link-up play. I think it could have been the game, like play Nacho again. Like actually some of the stuff we wanted him to do is the passing and linking up. So I'll stop there because I think Jason's itching to wait.
No. Well, now I have to say, I would say when I looked at the lineup and I saw the way the side was set up, there were two things that I thought of right away, and one is the names that aren't included in the squad list. If you look at who we had on the bench, you won't notice two first-team defenders listed that are healthy. No Vestergaard, no Soyuncu. So Rodgers is clearly trying to making a statement there, and he's got Lewis Brunt on the bench, a reserve player, and we're at a pressure point in the season, and I think you can really see that there, where Rodgers is having to kind of make some statements to the squad, and also probably feeling a bit desperate himself. Whereas, like, if a guy doesn't want to be here anymore, he just cannot be involved or near the squad. And that's what we're seeing with Soyuncu, I think. That's what we're seeing with Vestergaard. Rodgers himself went out before that, this week, and said that Vestergaard will not be training with the first team anymore after his comments. So we're seeing the pressure, I think, everywhere on the squad. And that's one of my concerns for the rest of the season. And you look at a side like QPR that have a lot of players that will be gone next year. It makes you really wonder if the side has it in them to, see a relegation fight through. When a lot of these guys are probably thinking about their next club next season and are going to face the consequences of this year. The other thing I was hoping for, I think, when I saw the lineup and see Ndidi starting and see us playing that like more traditional 4-1-4-1 or the 4-3-3, however you want to kind of like move them around, is I thought that this game was going to be a bit different. We and especially with Daka starting up top, we seem to give up fast break opportunities for fun. Like that's what we do. If you want to talk about the identity of this squad, it's giving up fast break chances. And last week I was like, why the hell can every other team in the league do this against us? But when do we ever do this against anyone else? And so I was thinking, all right, you know what? Rodgers is saying, screw it. We can't seem to keep a clean sheet to save our lives. So we're just going to go for this. We're going to have Wilf patrolling, cleaning up the mess in the back so that our fullbacks can bomb up the pitch, so that our wingers can play high up the pitch. And so Daka is going to be right there on the defender's back shoulder anytime that Brentford's back line thinks about moving up the field. We didn't really see that for a while. We saw Daka kind of coming back. I think some of that has to do with he's just not confident yet in a physical side of his play, and not comfortable like being so close to defenders and feeling like he's got to run and move. He does a great job pressing, but so I think what I was expecting to see versus what we actually saw out of the game were two different things, and that's just based on the lineup and the names that were listed and where they were listed on the pitch.
Yeah, it does seems like he, for whatever, I don't know if it's just they need to just sit him down and be like, bro, we just want you to score. Because even the commentator at one point, like, Daka gets through, he's got one guy to beat. the guy's like kind of behind him, but instead of just turning on, the afterburners and just trying to beat the man, he stops the play and slows up the play. And even the commentator was like, why didn't he just have a shot at it? I mean, early on, let's get some balls on net. And I'm just like, and we've spoke a little bit about the commentator and how much we like him, Jim, but I thought that was a good point that he actually did make for once. There's just like this hesitation in him where I don't know if he just doesn't want to get like a selfish label or whatever, but it's like, dude, you're a one up top striker. You're on your own. Don't worry about being selfish. Jamie Vardy, you have literally the epitome of what this position is supposed to be like on the bench. Take in what he tells you and just be a selfish asshole. No one's going to call you that if you're putting goals in.
Yeah, and Patson Daka seems like one of the world's nicest men.
That's what I mean.
So he's seems like such a good, genuine dude. So it's like, all right, it's okay, man. You can be selfish every now and then. Like everyone's still gonna love you as a person.
Yeah. It's like he doesn't want to have the awkwardness of somebody, doing the classic hands down, why didn't you pass the ball to me? But it's like, but if it's in the back of the net, it doesn't matter. Right? Yeah. Chris, is that kind of where you are on Patson? Just let it rip, kid.
I mean, he's young and he's been doing this for 18 months, 2 years now, almost 2 seasons in the Premier League. We're going to have to give him a bit of time. But I think ultimately, yeah, he can have individual confidence, but he's got to have the confidence in the other 10 men to put him in that position. And I think at this moment in time, he doesn't have that. It's the reason why he's dropping back to defend, to cover Tete, as Jim pointed out, and things like that, is because he probably just doesn't have that confidence in the other lads being able to feed him the way he needs to be fed. I mean, we've talked on his podcast, feed Darko and he's going to get you goals. We saw that Spartak Moscow away. He scored a boatload. He had 4 fives. He's got the potential. And I think this summer will, and I know jumping ahead, but this summer will be crucial in us buying players that fit that mold to be able to do that. And I think ultimately, again, though, we just need to find that spark for these remaining games. Someone up there who's going to get us 4 or 5 goals. Because that, I think, is going to be the difference between us staying up and going down, is the ability to find people. Barnes is going to get you 3 or 4 between now and the end of the season. You're probably going to get a contribution from KDH and another midfielder. But we've got to find that person up top that can get us 4 or 5 goals, can sneak that 4-3 win at this moment in time or whatever it's going to be, because we can't defend for the life of us. But we need someone up there to score goals. And it's going to be tough. And I expect Rodgers, I don't see him settling on a striker. I think he'll play it rotationally until he finds somebody that works and then plays them 2 or 3 games. And when they don't score, he'll try something else. I think that's got to the point in this season now where we're desperate. And I think he's just going to roll the dice every single time and just see what sticks.
I'm looking for that late season Leonardo Ulloa run. Jim, you kind of feeling the same thing on Patson there?
Yeah, Chris is spot on. Like he can't stay on the last defender, otherwise we just don't have any defense from the front. And he doesn't know when he's going to get the ball. I think the bits where he kind of went closer to either Barnes or Tete, trying to work some angles, but also more Tete to help him defend, because Tete was not really defending again. I think we saw this sort of jogging around, and I was actually watching Daka run past Tete to go chase back as Tete sort of stood there and sort of pretended he was jogging back, which we've seen before from him. But if you don't think you're going to get the ball, then I don't know what you can do as a lone striker with, afterburners who is instinctual. I think it was almost like when I mentioned earlier when he trod on the ball, when it was that first one from Maddison in the sort of 10th, 12th minute. I think it was like surprised that he was like, oh boy, the ball's coming towards me, and he starts turning, and he actually treads on it kind of half through as he's turning, because he's not expecting it, because it's not like in that we're going to try it. I was sort of counting, not like stats bomb or anything, but I think there was like 3 or 4 times we tried to play a through ball. That was one. There was one that KDH hit to no one. I think there was another one that was like overplayed by Barnes to Daka in the first half as well. And then obviously the goal. So it kind of works. And I think to Jason's point, that this is the sort of team you can play against because they are pushing up high, they're creating pockets of space, but we couldn't work it through them quite often. If it was going to, I think Harvey Barnes got a lot more, he grew into the game, he got a lot more license, and he did a lot more on the left than they were closing down Tete really fast. They saw that he either does try and do too much with the ball and he's too slow, or he's the opposite and he just tries to give it away immediately. There was like one time where he could have taken it down on his chest and just held it up and laid it off and turned. And he just tried to flick it on over his head to no one. And I was like, what are you doing, dude? But I think we've got Daka is kind of also creating sort of these half chances. So there was that through ball. There was the header. He kind of got some momentum. There was the one where it was like looped in by Ricky P. And the defender did a Leicester defender job. And he just kind of looped it over the bar. So I think he kind of is sort of getting in that space. It's interesting when we talk about, actually how Rodgers will give a run to people like the goalkeeper for 26 games, but he'll give the strikers 3 games and then it's time for a change again. So it's kind of ridiculous from that standpoint.
And you can tell his frustration too. Like there were a couple times he pulls the jersey over his head and he's just like, so there is part of me that he knows the kind of player he is. And I do feel like
turned off. Awesome.
Once
I can speak, but I can't hear.
Okay. I do feel like once he gets a few of them in there, part of me is at least hopeful, optimistic that the goal waterfall will open up for him, Chris, and hopefully we'll have some something to celebrate then. So yeah, we talked that Brentford scores around the 31st minute, just like we said, doing exactly what we don't. They're just shooting, and it gets a deflection off of us and goes in over Everson's shoulder. So just kind of one of those crappy things where we can't get the ball out, and here we are struggling, and it just gets on the wrong end. So I guess if you're going to get scored on, that rather than just a complete breakdown by somebody, I'd like to see him get the ball out, but a deflection goal is your first one to give up as a Premier League keeper. For Everson, I felt good on that. Anything else on that goal, guys, before we move forward? There's two ours. I think we pretty much covered it there as we're waiting for Jim to come back.
Well, we don't do clean sheets, so we just, if
That's
anyone
true.
was under the delusion that we were going to keep one, I'm glad that, we got that dose of reality early, and just players need to know, look, we're gonna have to score a couple goals if we want.
Couldn't have him getting a big head, getting a clean sheet in his first start anyway. So, let's move ahead then, guys, to our goal in the second half. We go into the half down 1-0. Chris, we can talk. Was there anything at halftime that had you either very excited or very depressed? I guess before we jump into the second half.
So I think we gradually got into the game, especially in that last 10 minutes. I remember going into halftime thinking that the thing that shocked me the most was, I know there's the parity between 12th and 20th is 3 points at this moment in time, and there's the table suggests that there's a big points gap between that 8th, 9th, 12 positions, but I didn't think Brentford I thought Brentford were there for the taking. They didn't look, that first half performance, I didn't think that was a team that was like, oh, they're up there, they're fighting for the European places. To me, I was like, shit, Leicester on a good day could have had these lads. We can have these guys. And it just got me even more frustrated about the bloody season, Matt, and what could have been, I think. But ultimately, I thought going into the second half, we needed a big team talk from Rodgers. We needed him to be focused, make the adjustments that were required, and come out with a bit of purpose in that second half. And I think we did that, mate. And so, especially, that first part of the second half, especially, I thought Rodgers kind of instilled a little bit into the boys, and I thought they played pretty well.
They definitely came out well, and it looked like possession was on their mind, and definitely, I don't know what he said, if anything, but we did look hungry, at least I'll say, coming out of that. And we've talked before on whether or not even if Rodgers doesn't have him, which for all accounts, like, say what you will, the fans being upset, it does seem to be a pretty unified front outside of Vestergaard and Soyuncu, of course, in that locker room as far as, having Brendan's back. And, Jason, you spoke about it last week. You said that exact thing. The guys do seem to be in Rodgers' corner here. So, maybe he just came out and said kind of what you did, Chris, was these guys are not a sixth place team or whatever the fuck they are right now on the table. Like, this is a better quality side here. And when you look at our guys and just like the stuff that we were trying to do, it definitely does speak to a more advanced level of football rather than the Route 1 stuff. But again, we could say that shit all day, and that's what Rodgers has said all year is, and if it's not working, it's not working, and there's no point. So come out in that second half and to see a bit of life was good. We do get a goal set up by KDH, really makes that happen with some tiki-taka moves. Jason, that was sweet. Kind of a different level to KD. I think when we think KDH, you kind of think of like a nose down to the dirt grinder, but a nice little back heel there, man, to set that thing up. You speak on that goal a little bit.
Yeah, KDH looked like he's getting his kind of swagger back. It's amazing what happens when you actually play a player on the side that he's supposed to be playing.
On the right side, yeah.
Like,
right.
Play him on the left side. I just don't understand. Like, I was going nuts the last couple of weeks. It's like, why the hell does it keep putting him on the right side? He's only setting him up for failure. Now you play KDH where he's comfortable. Look what he can do. And I think KDH is a guy that he's felt the pressure. I think he knows he hasn't been up to the same standard that he was last season, and that things need to change. And look, we need it was a great goal. If I could just since we brought up KDH, and I want to get back to the goal because it was a nice goal, and I'll let you guys talk about the rest of that. But this is crunch time, and KDH is definitely a guy that knows how much this matters. And KDH is going to be a player that will be with us next season, probably, no matter what happens and how we finish up. The talk about beautiful football and advanced football and kind of that basic way that Brentford play, we're at a point now in the season where, like Brentford, they didn't look that special. I don't think they look that great. They did play a game midweek. We didn't, but still, you're professional athletes. You should be able to do that. It's not like they were traveling around Europe and then coming to play us. But right now, we need to be about what is the most effective way to collect points. We're running out of time to get points. We need points, and not just point. We need points. And the time for advanced football, the time for like beautiful football, the time for Brendan Rodgers, possession, and let's see how this all shakes out is over. We need to win battles, keep the other team out of the net, create more quality chances than the other team. That is Brentford. It's a little soulless. I always say it's like they play Excel sheet football, like Excel workbook football, right? And it's just soulless, but it's like that's what they have to do. They have to moneyball the hell out of the game, and everything is just game theory and moneyball and just like what's going to, because they just don't have the money. They're not going to compete on that. So they need to be as effective as possible. It's kind of what Nigel Pearson did with us too, in a way, kind of led that change into like advanced into statistics and how to play efficient football, how to create more quality chances to the other team. We're not doing that right now. And I don't know that we have a lot of players that are willing to get dirty and roll up their sleeves. KDH, though, I think is one of those players. And I think this sort of period of crunch time might bring out the best in him. And I think he's going to be one of the players that we're going to count on. He was definitely one of the players that we counted on this weekend. he looked better than he has for a very, very long time, and that was really encouraging to me. I'm just afraid that we only have one of those guys.
Yeah, it's going to be
he's a hell of a player on his day, and he made that goal happen.
He did, and he's not a player that, we've spoke about maybe this mercenary mindset that could be infecting the locker room. Say what you fucking want. KDH ain't got that. This is a local boy, came up. He knows what this fucking club means to Leicester. He knows what this club means, and I think maybe he's a player that we see now that knows where and recognizes where we are in the table and uses that as a motivation to really take his game to a level that we need it to be at, and a little level that maybe he doesn't even know he's capable of, because he's playing, for something so close to his heart and not just a paycheck. Chris, you want to speak on the man a little bit more?
I'll just echo Jason's points. I think we do have people in the locker room that give a shit. I think Matters, I think Barnes, I think Christiansen has shown, at least in the first few games, a little bit of something that can get us over the finish line. And I think if we can get those four on the field caring, then hopefully that's enough to take us over the line. Look, reality is we need 36 points. We've got 25. We've got to find 11 from somewhere, to Jason's point. I think 40 is a myth. I think 36 will keep us up, maybe even lower this year, because of the differences and how close it is. But to Jason's point, we've got to find multiple points in these games. Getting a point here and there is not going to be enough to keep us up.
Yeah, and part of me thinks too, the parity of the table, like you spoke about, 12th through 20th, it's 3 points or whatever. Maybe that's where Brendan has got this false sense of security, where he just is looking at the table and he's like, it could be anybody through here, rather than if it was a little bit more fractured and there was a big chunk. I don't know.
We picked up a point and we fell further down the table.
Yeah, that's a perfect point.
But it was a great goal, and it was a classic James Maddison, Harvey Barnes. It was a classic Leicester goal, and that was encouraging to see. We need a little bit more of that. That's our identity, that kind of fast break style. And just think about, the last time we were in a position like this in the Great Escape, think about those Vardy goals that were scored during that time, and getting past, breaking through the last line of defense and getting in on goal. And let me tell you, there's nothing that I think gets our fans going more than seeing a goal like that. We need to figure out how we can get more of that.
Definitely. I think, after KDH makes that move, a little pullback move, sends it over to Matters, who then just laces a straight line through to Harvey. And as we've said 150 times on this podcast, Harvey is at his best when it's instinctual. He was at a point so close to all he could do was pretty much shoot, and he finds the back of the net, Chris. So perfect way, but if he doesn't have to think about it,
I know you and Harvey Barnes' finishing is a contentious issue on this podcast, but give the guy some credit. It's a pretty good finish. He kind of stabs his foot into the ground to deliberately give it a little bit of a chip. It was a pretty great finish, Matt. I know you get frustrated with his finishing, but
there's the one thing that the Barnacle does, and even when he's not playing, he gets goals. He makes goals happen, and he does it better than most wingers in England. So it was a hell of a finish by.
Yeah. I guess my point being, and again, we've covered it on this podcast, it does seem like those finishes for him are just second nature versus when he's standing, with multiple seconds to kind of line up a shot, and then he puts it square into the chest. That's my point.
You'll never forgive him for that Liverpool away miss, will you, mate?
No, I will not. But thank you for bringing that back up, Jim. Now that you've got your gamer headphones there in and working, anything that you want to touch on that goal or the emergence of Super Harvey?
Yeah, where was I when I lost my sound? So let's go back to the 20th minute of the game so I can recap everything. No, I'm kidding. No, I was listening along to you guys nicely, so thanks for bearing with me. And like a true pro, I have backup headphones that were then plugged into the wrong outlet, and I couldn't even figure out how to do it. So yeah, I think exactly right. That's the Harvey Barnes goal. That is, don't think about it, just do it. And actually, I think it showed. Like, I was really impressed with the finish because he did have. It's like one you don't have if you don't have much confidence, and something I've noticed throughout this game. He grew in confidence. He tried more errant passes in the first half, but he was still running and he was still trying to do something, and it paid off because he was consistently in the game. His fellow winger needs to watch him a little bit more and get involved in the match as well. I think you guys gave a huge shout out to KDH like for that goal. That was the fact that he could have gone down. He did a little KDH turn that we know he likes to do. And then played a nice ball across to Maddison. And to the people that care, Maddison started getting a bit like prima donna in the first half. I felt, soft booking, pulled out of a tackle because he didn't want to get another yellow because he gave away that stupid yellow, which kind of ultimately led to their goal in the way. Not directly, but indirectly. But his head was gone. I don't know if you guys talked about it because that's when my sound was gone. But his head was gone for their goal because everyone else played offside. He didn't. He just sort of ambled out, played the ball onside, and he was the Gary Neville of, classic Gary Neville pointing at everyone saying they're offside, hand up in the air, and he was the one causing the failed trap. And I think that was great that Harry Suter was playing that line, and actually, Dan Amati played it to perfection, and then turns around, sees Maddison playing three people onside. So I think that was nice, and that was pretty much like all that happened in the second half, really, wasn't it? We kind of played a bit of tidy football. We, for those of us in the US who, if you watch the extended highlights for NBC, the extended highlights were Leicester score a goal, 80th minute random cross, final whistle, literally in the space of like 90 seconds covered the span of the second half. I think I don't know if you guys talked about the subs. Yeah, we haven't gotten to the rant about.
No, we should.
What the hell?
Take it off. Go for it.
But I think again, it's like what's happened with the subs. Samare coming on, Vardy didn't make sense to me. I think the one that did make sense was maybe Pratt but it was weird timing because Tete finally started doing something, and Pratt kind of gave us some more solidity. And I think to Jason's point, it was like we're trying not to lose rather than trying to win, as we see Leeds and we see other people winning at the weekend and really working hard. And I think Pratt had an okay game, but I don't know if it was the right sub at the right time for that. I think the game was made for Iheanacho to come on if Daka's going off, because he would have linked the play. He would have snuck in behind. And I don't like Samare, the less said, the better about that guy. He's this type of player I want to love. Like, he has everything, but he played one decent pass, but then fouled them because he's too slow and his head's not in the game. And it's just kind of shocking, really, of the decision making of Rodgers on that side of it, and especially as we started looking like a team where we could get something out of the game.
I did want to say too, just real quick, Jason, I'll give it back to you. I did want to say before we move on too much, if you watch that goal that Harvey scored, the first person that he runs over to on the sidelines is Nacho. And go ahead and pull up the highlights, guys, and watch that and look at Harvey's face when he hugs Nacho. It just is like this relief almost. Like, the guy's eyes are closed for a good 3 or 4 seconds while he's hugging Nacho. So meant a hell of a lot. So more to your point, Chris, too, about multiple guys in the locker room that give a shit. So.
I have one final point before Jason rants about the subs. But KDH, I think something that happened in the game that made him play so well was having Wilf. I think it allowed him to be that more box-to-box midfielder. He could be a lot more attacking. I know, Chris, you love the average positions, but he was I think he was at least the same, if not a little higher than Maddison even, and on his final position. So I think having that all-action KDH is with Wilf anchoring him is great. So hopefully he and Harvey are on like the uptick. You know, they're on the forecast, buy their shares. Let's go long on them on that. And so there you go. And then we can get back onto the real topic, which is Rodgers subs.
Well, when Harvey went and hugged Iheanacho, it made me hopeful that Iheanacho would come on pitch a little sooner and we would really go for the kill. So Brentford were there for the taking, as Chris said. And the momentum had changed and come our way. Rodgers always has to make his subs around the 65th minute. Just what he does. It's automatic. And he puts on Vardy and he puts on Dennis Pratt. And doesn't really change the setup, right? And keeps Pratt out as a right winger, and that's just not what he is. Okay, we've got to get that's done. That's over. It's not his position. It just doesn't do anything for us. It doesn't give us a goal. And when was the last time that he put Vardy on as a sub in the right way and set us up and we got something out of that? Just has not happened this year. So I just don't know what he's doing, if he just feels like he has to make these subs and he just makes them. But there's almost like I just don't understand why some players are getting in and some players aren't, and why we just he just keeps making the same mistakes with his subs over and over. And there was a chance, look, we'll take the point, but there was a chance to get 3. And they just completely blew it. I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, this is a team that played midweek. We need points. They're not threatening us. Go for the game. Try to take these points, because we're running out of opportunity to get 3 points. And then Soumare comes on, like what, 5 minutes? I don't know, 8 minutes later, or over Mendy. Now, Mendy had been playing the best football he's ever played for us over the last few weeks. Everyone knows that I'm like, Mendy frustrates me, man. Like he does. I just don't think he's positive enough. He's another one of those guys. I want to like him. I just like the character of Pappy Mendy. There's something, just endearing about the guy.
It's like Muggsy Bogues kind of thing. Undersized, a lot of heart.
Yeah, but why? I don't know. We can debate the heart aspect, because I think he hides a lot during games. But the last month or so of his performances, he has been our best player. Once Iheanacho cooled off a bit, Pappy Mendy was the best player we were putting out on the field. And I got to give credit where it's due. He was doing a lot. He was tidy with the ball. He was covering more ground than he's ever covered. He was making tackles. He was stepping up. He was being that dynamic player that we've been needing for a long time. And now he can't get on the – it's like Chris. Rodgers will give Danny Ward the whole season to make all these makes. And then Mendy gets, 4 games or 3-4 games when he's actually playing well. And then now he's like persona non grata. And this is, again, I think, and I'm worried that this is the situation that we've got here. And that's just speculation again. But look at the names that were not listed on the team sheet. And now look at a player like Soumare coming on instead of a Mendy, whose contract is expired. And so is the thought that Mendy's not going to be here, so we just can't play him right now. But I'm sorry, Soumare has been atrocious, absolutely atrocious since the World Cup break. He hasn't had a good appearance since then, and we just cannot take this chance anymore and keep putting him out here in these high-stakes situations. Every game is a high-stakes game right now. Don't know why he continues to go out there and play. And, I talked about wanting to see Nacho earlier. Well, he finally comes on the 90th minute. Chris, you talked about we need that striker that's going to get us those goals, that's going to get us the 4 or 5 goals during crunch time. Well, there's one guy who's done that already for us when we really needed him to step up.
Yeah.
He's done it before for Leicester. When he gets hot, he gets hot. He makes goals happen. I guess I don't know what he didn't score one game against Chelsea, so now we're not going to play him. Like now he doesn't see the pitch. Like what are we doing? What is going on here? Like why we don't have the options to play the way that Brendan wants to play anymore, right? We don't have an extra winger to throw on when we start in a 4-3-3. I guess we need to play this beautiful football. We need to play this advanced football, and we're too above playing this direct, effective Brentford approach. I guess we're above having a Mark Albrighton on the team. We're above having an Jose Perez on the team that actually can do a little bit of that on the right wing. And I guess we're above having a Hamza Chowdhury on the team, or just guys that are just going to do dirty work out there. I'm sorry. We're not above anything right now. Okay. We're above three sides. And some of it has to do with goal difference right now. We are not above anything. We are in a relegation fight. We are getting closer and closer and closer to the bottom. There will be nothing above us except the championship, which is where we're heading. So we're not above playing that way. We're not above these types of players. We need this insistence on, I don't know, like just needing to do something the pretty way, or needing to be like even more just like outsmarting the other manager and doing all that stuff. I'm sorry, it's too late for this. It's too late. We can't keep pissing away points because we're too good for something. Because we're not sorry. Well, we're good enough to get to beat Southampton the two times we played them. So
well, also Jason, look at when Iheanacho came on in the 90th minute, it was for Maddison. Pratt went and played in the middle, and Iheanacho played right midfield. So he's not even bringing him on to be dangerous as an instinctive striker. He's putting him on because he's like this inverted winger, because it keeps his formation and his shape, not kind of contributing to the game whatsoever. So it's like doubly insane.
I'm sorry for the long rant, everyone, but I don't know what the plan is. Like what's the plan here? Like what is he trying to accomplish? I would love for like someone to ask Rodgers, like what did you think was going to happen when you made those subs? Like I'd just like to know what he thought. If he thought that it was going to turn out any different than it did, because we've all seen it. How many times have we seen it this season? It's like, why sap that hope from us? We had gotten back in the game. We had Brentford kind of where we wanted. They were tiring. They played midweek. Why do you keep doing that to us, man? Why do you keep freaking just taking the hope away from
We got an international break next week. The lads have got 2 weeks to. Well, most of the lads have got 2 weeks to recover. Run him into the ground for 90 minutes. Sneak the winner. Exactly to your point. Scared managers make bad decisions. So he's scared at this moment in time, in my opinion. And all he's doing is he's just trying to do the same thing again and again and again with the hope it's going to work. You were bang on. Why the hell did we let Perez go if all we're going to do is make the same change every single time? We take a right winger, send him out to Spain, and get a guy that should play centrally and stick him out there.
Yeah, give me Jose Perez on the right wing over Dennis Pratt any day of the week in that position.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Give me Mark Albrighton over him in that position any day of the week.
So I guess if I try and imagine I'm Brendan Rodgers for a second, hang on. Oh, okay, I'm amazing. I think the only thing I can think of is why bring on Soumare for Mendy, apart from Mendy won't sign a new contract and I have to ostracize any single player who slightly shows that they're not on Team Brendan. Is in theory, not in actuality, Soumare is a more progressive ball player than Wilf. In theory, he is also a central defensive midfielder. So if we are kind of on the ascendancy, is the theory that he can play the ball forward a bit better and we could get a chance. However, we have just put Dennis Pratt on also Dennis Pratt is already on as a right midfielder. So we've taken off our attacking winger, attacking winger in quote marks. We've taken off a player who's been kind of creating channels and chances in Patson Daka. We put on Jamie Vardy, who's just running around like the playground bully, I think, at the moment, and not really contributing much to the game. So that's my only thing I can think of. And I'm not defending Rodgers in any way. I'm just trying to sort of imagine why he might think that. But I probably think the reality is he hasn't signed a contract, in Papi Mendy, and that's it.
Well, listen, Professor Rogers, you can do that and talk about theory and talk about what's going on in the classroom. But
yeah,
right now,
I agree.
We need a blue collar. We don't need the college boy right now. We need the blue collar worker. And you know what? If Rogers wants to get I mean, obviously this is speculation, but if he wants to get tough with the guys that aren't going to be around anymore, then you know what? Put your money where your mouth is when Yuri Tillemans comes back from injury, because you've done nothing but kiss his butt for 2 years now. He probably seems like he's been doing more than just kissing his butt, but to get this guy to stay, and enough's enough with this. I get it, but he's trying to prove too many points right now. What we need to do is not prove points. We need to earn points.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And man, that's so true. When Yuri comes back, that would be the ultimate way to say, dude, you can't have it both ways here, because Yuri's a guy that we've been trying to get re-signed even longer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about you guys.
So the
I'm looking forward to the international break.
Good news on injuries is Ryan Bertrand should be back on the 1st of April.
Oh, thank God.
Well,
Thank
it was National Pie Day last week, so we may have to kind of wait up on that one to see the
where he
consequences of that. No.
Oh.
I want to say to Jason, to echo Jason's point, whenever I think of, call me naive, but watching football for all my life, whenever I see a manager make a multiple substitution change, I'm always cognizant that that's going to come with either a change in shape or something else. Whenever Rodgers seems to make these 2 or 3 person changes, every single one just seems to be reflective of an individual decision without any thought about how that's going to affect the overall synergy of the team. To Jim's point earlier, you put in Sumari on, who may play the ball quicker and get it forward quicker. But then at the same time, you're taking off our fastest player, who we bought to play on the last shoulder of a defender to play him through, and put on, no offense to Vardy, an older guy now that just doesn't have that speed anymore. And there was a couple of times, especially when Vardy was on, that they tried to play the long ball and Vardy just looked at it and went, I'm not going to get that. So I'm just going to kind of stand there. It's just those individual decisions without the idea, I think, of that synergy of how it's going to reflect the own team, that just baffles you as a Leicester. I mean, just baffles me every time he makes a sub. Early this season, it was he didn't make a sub because of time. Now he seems to make a sub every single time at the 65th minute without any thoughts behind who it's going to be.
Yeah, I just feel like we repeat the same shit every week on this podcast. So God bless for you guys for listening every week in and week out. But it's just to the point now where it's so frustrating. And I almost lean back on it's an arrogance thing. Like, he knows so much more than any of us can even comprehend, that he can continue to press these buttons and just prove his smartness to us. And in the meantime, we're just sinking lower and lower and lower on the table. So it's just like there's 2 very different things, button heads here, and he's either going to have to get on board or he's going to burn the fucking house down around us. And right now it sure seems like that's what he's going to do, if it's between him looking bad or him, God forbid, playing straightforward football that other people could figure out instead of his masterclass football. And it is certainly a way to run a club. But then we look ahead to next week and we see a club that we're tired of being run. They were Crystal Palace lets Vieira go, and I mean, how much further up are they than us in the table right now? 4 or 5 spots.
I don't want to give them too much credit. Paris has no idea what he's doing with that. There's no plan there. They just named Hodgson. He did that the last time they had to change managers. Yeah. This guy, but the one thing I will give him credit for is that he knows that they are very far from safety. That they're in trouble too. They're a sinking ship. They needed some kind of a change. He's getting a little desperate. I would hope that we had some kind of backup plan in place. But the longer this goes on, the more I think maybe we're in the same boat as Crystal Palace, because there wasn't a lot of thought about the transfer strategy that we've had and what we've actually put out there for the last few windows. But I don't know. Maybe that's the signal to Palace's side that look, this isn't a fire drill. The house is burning. Right. All right. We need to do something now. We need to save our lives. And, but I don't know. It seems like around Leicester City Football Club, everyone just thinks it'll all be fine. And, to stay on the fire analogy, Jim talked about that cartoon of the dog with the house burning down, just saying it's fine. But each week, it seems like that should be Filbert Fox in that cartoon and not another dog.
Yeah, instead or the dog needs to have an all black suit with a silver fox lapel, and he needs to be just quiet clapping
and a Gucci belt.
But I don't think that's just the manager, though. I think there are people above the manager making decisions here, and seem to also think like everything's going to be fine. All of the players seem to think everything's going to be fine.
Look, I totally agree, and I think we still move the ball too slow. We've talked about this for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks on this pod this season. Everybody talks about how the hell did we get to 5th in the league. He needs to go and watch some of his own videos on some of that, because how we move the ball up the field quickly is what we need to start doing. I think if we stay up, I think it's going to be because of individual players getting us out of trouble, like a Maddison doing something out, with a low XG, like Yuri Tielemans scoring a low XG goal. If he ever comes back, Harvey Barnes. I don't see us, playing as a team and really being, amazing. Like Ricky P coming back, I think he was very, very good as well on Saturday. The number of times he sprinted 30, 40, 50 yards to track their left midfielder or Rico Henry is overlapping was phenomenal. The one bit that terrified me that I want to mention about that was off a kickoff from their goal, we decided to lump it upfield, and then it's sort of almost like watching Aussie rules football for those that know it, especially our friend Jason's brother Jordan, who loves his Aussie rules. He flipped in the air and he flipped on his back, and I was like, oh no, that's it. There was some chat on the predictions, wasn't there, that Ricky P was going to get injured. Maddison was going to get sent off and Ricky P was going to get injured. I think that was Paul who was talking about that, who's been on the pod before too. So if he stays fit, I think if we get Christensen back, I kind of feel like if Evans gets fit, it's Suter and Evans. Otherwise, I think it's almost Suter and Amati for the centre back pairing.
If Evans gets fit,
imagine. Sorry, I'm feeling, but
good luck.
What was that? If my aunt had wheels, she would be a bike.
I think there's a more adult version of that, but so I think they're the bits that I see around. If Wilf can stay fit, if Ricky P stays fit, there's a lot of ifs I'm saying right now, as you can probably all hear. And Brendan, just pick a freaking center forward and stick with them now for 5 games, please. And I think it's got to be Kells, senior man.
100%.
Dak is the bench.
Jim.
Yeah,
Pastor Jim.
Thank you.
With a word.
Sign me up top. I'm ready, coach.
100%, man. I think it's got to happen, and I think it's so clear to everybody. And then the fact that he didn't get any time on the weekend, it's just there's so many things here, guys. Whether it's, I mean, you pick where you want to fucking be sad about on this team right now, and there's just too many places. So, I mean, whether it's watching the Michael Jordan of your team and slowly just whatever's happening to Jamie, just this descent into obscurity. I mean, the guy has got about his chance right now as Rochester, New York succeeding. It's just
that one was below the belt.
Sorry, but it's just it's become so sad to watch, and it's like I said, wherever you look around the pitch, and it starts with Brendan, and the rot just goes from there. So and now we get to play Roy Hodgson with the new manager bounce coming into Palace, where a 0-0 draw. We played him in October at the Fan Fest. I don't know. Are you guys any more confident this many months later that we are going to score against them? I'm not, Chris.
I don't know, but all I know is that we have an international break before then, and I will be savoring every minute of the break. And just, I guess I'm curious as to how you guys are planning to spend it too, because I think that would be the most positive thing that we talk about this week.
Well, I'll start. I am going to the inaugural first season of the San Diego Wave, the national women's soccer team. I have season tickets this year, me and the missus do, and we are going to the first game next Saturday against the Chicago Red Stars at their brand new stadium down in San Diego. So I, for one, can't wait. I think it's been great watching women's football grow in the UK with the Leicester ladies, and to be able to be part of Summit in San Diego now, as it kind of helps as well that they have some of the best players from the women's national team as part of their team. But at the same time, super excited to go watch the ladies of San Diego play their first. Well, I should say their first game of their second season. They played last year.
Yeah,
but it was kind of a who's who in terms of which stadiums they were in and things like that. So their kind of first season at their brand new stadium. So I, for one, can't wait to get to watch some women's football this weekend.
Definitely, and the boys are playing. The season started for our San Diego Loyal. Shout out to those guys, and thanks guys for putting up. We had a matinee afternoon match yesterday for the Loyal for their second match of the season. They won 3-0, 2-0 start for the Loyal. So things are great down here in San Diego. So yeah, I'll be focusing on that. Jason, what about you?
I will be watching our girls on Sunday morning. Every game is pretty much a cup final for them to see out the season. They're a point away from safety and still at the bottom of the table, so everyone matters. So if I do watch any football this weekend, it will be Leicester City women on Sunday morning, 9:00 Eastern time, and that'll be it. No, there won't be any football for me once the leagues are over. Looking forward to spending a weekend with some family, getting out of New York City for a couple of days, maybe playing a little bit of golf with my youngest brother.
Let's go. Shout out to Big Sexy Ryan. Jim, what about you, buddy?
So not to brag, but I'm taking an international break of my own, and I'll be heading over to France and Holland for a short break. So we go next week, and looking forward to a week and a half out of the country on holiday, watching our friend Monica run the Paris Marathon. So that'll be amazing. And then just kind of going and seeing the sights, avoiding football as well. So you can all thank me when we beat Palace, when we beat Villa, and we beat Bournemouth, because the chances of me watching any of those games are slim to none. And I'll be the only one I'll probably be able to watch is Bournemouth on recorded as live, because I'll be flying during that game. But so I'll be taking a mini break. Looking forward to it.
That's awesome, man. Well, safe travels to you and Dana. You guys, I'm sure you will just have a terrible time in old Paris. We just had a San Diego Fox, Mo. Shout out to Mo, who's been a guest on the pod before. He just got back from France and brought me an incredible Grand Cru Classé bottle of wine. So shout out to him and Sharisha for bringing me that back. So yeah, guys, have fun. That's amazing. And
thank you. Merci
As
beaucoup.
Yeah, as far as the Foxes go, bring back some Naki vibes, will you? Just a little bit of that when you come back.
More Noki than Samare vibes.
Please. Guys, yeah, on that note, I think that pretty much sums it up. We had a great turnout this week, though, for the San Diego Foxes to watch the Brentford match. Shout out to 10 of them. We had even the New Hampshire Fox who was in town on vacation. Ben was here, and he made his way to the Bluefoot and hung out with us. So that was a lot of fun. Looks like we had some pretty good turnouts around the rest of the country too, guys. So keep growing.
I got to give a shout out to the Mullings family in Rochester, New York, and we had them down in New York City this weekend to watch with us. But they started Rochester Foxes in upstate New York, and they've been getting awesome turnouts. Like I just love it, and they're just the best people. You know, we go back some years with them. We have the 125th anniversary shirt signed by the side, which was a gift from someone in the Mullings family as well. So they've done a lot for us as the New York Foxes, New York City guys. But I'm just loving that they've come down a bunch of times. They've been down to Fan Fest with us. We love hosting them down here in New York, but it's just awesome to see that they've now started a Leicester group upstate, and they're getting just great turnouts. And I promised them that we will make a road trip up there and get some of our New York guys up there to watch a game with them. It'll be a lot of fun.
More fans than the Rhinos.
That is true. I
two
know
references in one pod.
Up there, we're hoping, Vardy might sign a short-term contract and play a few games for them. But alas, it seems like, I don't know. That may never.
He's coming to the new San Diego MLS franchise next season. Sorry about it. Yeah, guys, on that note, thank you for joining us on the US Foxes podcast. I know we're at an hour and 15 minutes. And, times are tough. We've said this how many times now, guys, but one thing, Leicester will remain undefeated in the best support. It's the best group of fans anywhere as far as like the community of people. We're always there for each other. It's just the friendships that have been formed because of this club are undefeated, and the best people, and we'll all be there with you in good or bad, like we said last week. So thank you as always for joining us. Enjoy your break. 2 weeks. Hopefully the boys can get something figured out. Brendan finds a little bit of humility, maybe in the bushes at Seagrave, and we can make something of this season yet. So on that note, as always, guys, thanks for joining us on the US Foxes podcast. For Chris, Jason, and Jim, we love you, and we'll see you next week. Cheers, boys. Peace.